Welcome to Leadership Lessons, a show in which I, Cademan Kovacs, a first-year business student, interview leaders from around the world, getting insights into the lessons they learned, teaching you how to be a better leader for tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Jake. For those of you who don't know, you are the Forbes 30 under 30, the CMO turned rainmaker of Midday Squares, the chocolate company that's based out of Montreal, Canada, here in Canada. Love talking to an entrepreneur and a startup in Canada. Way to represent. And you're the fastest growing protein bar on a mission to take over the world of healthy snacks. Also, an incredible dancer, by the way. So thank you so much.
That's the most important thing. Dancing brings energy. It brings life. Energy is contagious, and if you're going to build a business, you might as well have fun while doing it. So I'm fired up to be here, and thanks for having me on the pod. And let's rock this.
Okay, awesome. So for those listening who haven't seen your dance moves, what are your top three that you can always count on, no matter what the video's about?
So, oh, dude. So I do it in my hallway, in my condo. I have a big hallway, long hallway. It's famous, and I basically do like a side movement where I roll like my hands, as if you could see, like I'm kind of rowing.
Yeah.
Another one is I do like the hey hey baby. It's basic, but move those shoulders and hips. And then last but not least, I'm into salsa now. I learned it when I was in Dominican Republic at this resort. There was like these coaches,
Mhm.
and I'm horrible, but at the end of the day, I love the movement. You know, when you get loose. So yeah, I bring it into all aspects of my life. I think it's important to note that it's in the investment world for me. It's in the media world. It's in with my team, and then when I speak at conferences, it works everywhere because it just brings joy and it brings people's barriers down. So it lowers people's barriers when you meet them. It brings a little bit of fun or child out of them because as we get older, for some reason we stop having the youthfulness to us, and I'm not saying because of physical look and things like that. I'm talking about like the youthfulness is us as humans, like the fun, the adventurous, the curiosity. So I try to bring that back by doing dancing in every aspect of my life.
Yeah, it's like a universal language almost, right? It's like food, dancing, no matter who you're talking to, it'll always work. That's so
Dancing actually
cool.
sells chocolate, believe it or not. It really does.
Okay, we got a question about that too, later coming up. If you could have a dinner party, say 5 people, dead or alive, who would they be?
Wow, that's a good question.
Yeah, it's a big one.
I definitely would love to have dinner with Richard Branson. I'm so curious about his energy. I think another entrepreneur that I'm so curious. I believe one of our biggest entrepreneurs of our decade, and for some reason he's liked by 50% of the world, disliked by the other 50% is Elon Musk. I'm curious to know how much he knows just about everything. Uh, I think some other people that I'd love to have is, the movie Rush Hour.
Yes,
Chris
yes.
Carter. He is the funniest
Yeah.
guy I've ever seen in my life. And every time I watch that movie, I can't stop laughing. His energy, his momentum is just crazy. That's another person. I think Michael Jordan would be another one. His greatness of his just athleticism and ability to win and just keep going and deal with pain. He's really, really fascinating. And then last but not least, I think another athlete that I would love to meet is Serena Williams. I think Serena is her whole story is wild, and I think she can teach me discipline and work ethic to a level that I think she is one of the greatest, one of the goats of that. So those are the 5 people, very, very different style of people, but entrepreneurs and athletes are typically what I'd love to sit with because a lot of them are high performers. A lot of them have dealt with an immense amount of pain, and a lot of them have achieved something that is really hard to achieve. So for me, I like to surround myself with people that can elevate me, and all these individuals can inspire me in one way or another. And yes, they're not perfect. None of them are perfect. They all have flaws and things like that. But at the end of the day, I look for their greatness and I try to understand and learn from their greatness. And that's something very important to me.
Yeah, like if you can take the best parts of each person, you don't have to take their
Yeah.
entire personality, right? Yeah, and also,
I
are
think that
you claiming that Jordan over LeBron as the GOAT,
I'm
or is
a
that just
hundred, 100%.
okay? Okay, wow,
I'm a
big
big
claim.
MJ fan.
Yeah.
Jordan not only inspired me from his athleticism, but from the brand that was built, within Nike and how they story told that and built that. And you watch the docuseries Last Dance, and it shows his imperfections, but it also shows his greatness, right? And I think that that's what relates to humans. And I think you said something very important before that I think everyone should know is you don't have to like, just because you want to learn from someone or be inspired by someone doesn't mean that you like everything about them. And that's okay. And you said take what the greatness is of them or what their inspiration is for you, and that's cool. And I think a lot of people in this world, for some reason, if you say one thing, they're like, oh, well, you must like everything about them. And it's like, no, I'm not perfect. Some people like me for my dancing, but can't stand me for my management, for example, or something else. But they still like me, right? They're inspired. So I think that that's the beauty of what I learned over the last decade of entrepreneurship is you can like someone for certain aspects of their life and dislikes other aspects of their life.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing. It sounds bad, like self promotion, but talking about like podcasts like these or reading books and getting to know people more, you can figure out your favorite parts of their worldview, and you don't have to interpret everything.
Exactly. There's no one path in life. Like there's no one path or one way of living or liking I think that each individual has its own. And you and me, for example, we're different. We don't know each other that well. We know a little bit about each other, but like you're going on a different path, I'm going on a different path, and there's no one doing it better than the other or wrong or right. And I think that that's the beauty. As long as you're a kind person and authentic, I think is critical. I think that if you do those two things, you're winning the game of life and whatever that winning means to you.
So, do you think, kind of, when you're looking at it objectively, do you think the almost the only thing that makes a life better, or not a life, or like a purpose better, is authenticity, like doing what you want to do, almost at that
I
step?
think I think winning life is just to me is feeling alive every day you wake up. Meaning, and I don't mean breathing like that. We should all be doing, hopefully, God, God willing. But I think living alive means you're excited to capture the present moment every day. And I think being authentic is a prereq for that in the sense of you can live your purpose, you could live your life, and you're not trying to be somebody else. You're not trying to play someone else's game. You're playing your own game because you are the best player at your game. No one is better than you at your game but you. But if I wanted to compete with LeBron James in basketball, no, there's no chance. Like I can't pretend to be better than him. Like I can't put on that show. He has put the work in. He has the skill. He has the work ethic. I just don't have that skill, and I haven't done the work for that in ever. But I think that am I great at what I do? Yeah, I think my superpower is my superpower, and I think that I'm unstoppable when I'm living within my superpower. But that being said, I think you said it right, is authenticity is kind of like a prereq for living a fulfilled life or living a alive life. And I feel bad for folks that just never find that aspect of them. And I think that it's limiting to not find your authenticity. Shouldn't be so hard, but for some reason it is hard.
And that's why you look towards those people who are great and who have had that focus for so long, that one area, because they're living their life. They know their purpose and they're driving through it with everything they have.
And there's so many people in the world that I don't necessarily agree with, for example, but they are living authentically, and you could feel it. And that I know to them, they're winning in their sense, right? So they feel good because they're living their authentic life, and I have respect for that. I don't necessarily agree with them on a lot of things they do, but I have respect for them because I know that when you live your life and you feel alive, and it sounds so cheesy and authentic and all that stuff, you actually feel fired up. You feel amped. It's not about motivation. It's living. And I lived my life for many years not that way. I lived it the opposite way of trying to chase something else, chase another one's game, and I was miserable. I felt like a box that I was stuck in, and limiting. There was a ceiling. You couldn't go above it. And it's not about money. It's about impact that you want to make on whatever you're doing, whether it's your friendship, a marriage, or podcasting, or a business like a chocolate bar company. You don't want to have a box. And the only way to get out of that box is to lean into your strengths, lean into your authenticity, because the world's your oyster at that point, in my opinion.
And I love what you said too, like separating a person from their drive and their motivation from their actual actions, right? Like they don't have to take everything all at once. Like you can separate an individual in the different aspects of their life. And I love that. Like it forces us to be more compassionate and more kind to each other too.
Yeah,
And
you should always lead the world with kindness. That's number one. Don't be a bad person. That should be the rule number one. But
yeah.
I think what you know is right. It's like, always people ask me about mentorship. And it's like at the beginning, I didn't have any mentors. And I used to say this, sorry, I used to say I don't have any mentors. And that was wrong, or I didn't have access to it. The truth is, I've access because I have internet, because I have social media. I can access podcasts, books, social media posts from anyone almost in the world that is active on these things, and I could learn from their wisdom. So they are my mentors. So I always tell people, yeah, like I know Richard Branson because I read his book. I know his mind, right? So like we live in a world where we've accessed all this information. So you don't necessarily need the physical mentorship. And yes, they're great to have. And I have many mentors now and I'm grateful for them. And I try to help others as well. But at the end of the day, mentorship doesn't have to be a person to person relationship. It could be a information to person relationship, and it actually benefits you. It inspires you. You take what you need to learn and then improve. And I think that that's where a lot of people get stuck. It's like, I don't have mentors, but I'm always trying to ask, no one's answering. It's like, well, go on social media, follow some of the people that you're inspired by. They literally will share their mindset, their learnings, their case studies, their things, which you can then take, and that's like basically getting the best education you can. So I think that's important for your listeners to hear.
Yeah.
I've changed my whole perspective on that.
And as we're talking like the Harvard study, right? Like the 5 people that you're like your reference group almost, right? And we can control our reference group now in this modern age, which is such a cool aspect that I think you brought up. Okay, and talking about that motivation as the rainmaker for Midday Squares, what is the best part of your day usually right now?
The best part of my day is honestly, I think when I go hang out, I get to do something really fun once a week, which is not every day, obviously, but it's a lot. And I go to a retailer of ours, one of our first retailers that started to support us, named Marché Tao in Montreal. It's a local retailer here, and they have about 5 or 6 stores. And there's a guy I go deliver product. I still hand deliver till this day. So 6.5 years later, I'm hand delivering product because we built a very close friendship with the store manager. And the store manager and I, literally every week or every 10 days that I go there, we dance. We literally dance down the aisles. And it's not a gimmick, it's not fake. It's literally us having fun. And I literally purposely tell my team I need to hand deliver it because I want to go hang, I want to fire it up. He brings so much joy to my life. He brings so much joy to other people. We've been viewed by millions on millions of people across the world. People know him from every city that everyone I speak to, they're like, we know Stu. And I think that that makes business have more of a friendship or a emotion rather than a transaction. And being able to do things like that fire me up because everyone, I always learned my whole life, like work has to be serious, that, work has to be this, you have to hustle and sacrifice and do and pain and all this stuff. And it's like, well, I could find things that I enjoy too and experience. And this is one of them. We dance down grocery aisles. It's a tradition. We call ourselves the duo. And we do like catwalks. We do, everything from 90s music, 70s music, and people love it. We love it. Customers love it. Our other retailers love it. Everyone, because it's not about transaction at that point. It's literally about, are we having fun and we get to do this, and this is like a privilege to be part of that. And I don't know, for me that's been the most fun. Other than that is being able to work with my family and build something meaningful every day that has a chance to be something very big is super cool and super inspiring. And going through the good and the bad and the ugly with them, my two partners, which is my sister and brother-in-law, is something that I'm super grateful for.
And as you talk about that growth and like that hopes to expand, and some people look at you or your kind of your mission and your idea, and they almost criticize it, where it's like it's not scalable. You can't get to 100 million hand delivering packages and dancing. What do you have to say about that? What do you think is as almost a necessary thing to get to 100 million to have those relationships, or?
I think I think doing the unscalable is critical for a business to build community, to build fan base, to build fandom. I mean, and I think the businesses that we see that are some of the most successful businesses today that are 30-year overnight success stories is is the ones that did things that were unscalable and made people feel something deeply inside, especially with their clients or their customers and their team, etc. So I think yes, it's definitely hard to hand deliver to every single person, and I'd love to, by the way. But we sell in stores in Phoenix, we sell stores in Vancouver, we sell in stores in Montreal. That's quite far from each other, and we're based here in Montreal. And so what I say to you is that, what we do is small things. Like, we handwrite, these Polaroid pictures for every one of our D2C customers, and we used to literally take a picture every day. That was every hour, every day we'd spend an hour taking custom photos. Now we take a photo shoot once a month, and we still handwrite. My mother still handwrites the letters, but she has a process that is able to scale. We've sent millions of these. And, so there's still that human touch, there's still that personalization. And some would have said that it's a useless thing, but it's not, because you make someone feel something. They're not just going to buy your product. They're now going to shout about it. They're going to tell their friends about it. They're going to sit at the dinner table. They become these advocates or these fans that are out there promoting your brand without you even knowing. And I think that if we want to scale this business to $1 billion, let's call it, in terms of size, and I say that just on size and impact, not because that's a number that we're necessarily going for, but we need to do things that are unscalable. We actually have to, because that's what makes us different. Everyone can copy a product. Everyone can copy a product. What they can't copy is how you make people feel. That is what's unique about every single business or every single individual. What our generation might be missing, unfortunately, is, oh, we could do everything on our computers and AI could take care of everything. That's, AI is great and internet's great, Zoom's great, everything's great like that to connect. But human to human is still one of the most powerful things in the world, because we as humans grew up, we evolved with human connection physically and having that serendipity happen in person. So I believe getting on planes and showing up for one meeting in New York or one meeting in Phoenix or one meeting in Toronto, just because it's a 10-minute meeting, I get on a plane, I do it. The costs are costs, but at least I know that 10 minutes I have a chance. I have a chance to connect deeply, to emotional connection. And people would say that's unscalable. So be it. But every single time I've done that, there's been an outlier typically return after each one of them. So for me, I would say to the people saying that there's things that are unscalable, yes, they might be, but you could tweak little things here and there to keep that humanization as you keep growing your business. And you can't forget about the things that made people become fans of your brand. And I think that it's a balancing act.
Yeah. Yeah. And you found ways to make it work still over time. I love that. It's really impressive. And talking about kind of that virality and that building of those fans, a lot of your success has been attributed to that social media aspect and that community you've been able to build. But when you kind of compare yourself to brands, it sounds bad, but like Duolingo, or just following trends, getting millions of impressions, you care more about vulnerability and storytelling. So why make that strategic decision? Why not just go for trends and go for virality and get as many impressions as possible?
Yeah, 100%. So I do like Duolingo. I use it, and I think they've done a phenomenal job in customer retention and all these things, and making it funny for a very scaled business. I think for us, we built our business since day one on the idea that storytelling is going to be at the forefront of the company, meaning that, our marketing strategy was not, hey, let's talk about the midday square and say, hey, it's got 6 grams of protein, 4 grams of fiber, it keeps you full, it tastes delicious. Those are things that we believe, yes, 100%, and that's the product. And we believe we have product market fit, which again is critical to any business. But I think for us, our marketing strategy was, can we document and share the good, the bad, the ugly, making it relatable to people, making our content that people want to pay attention to, that want to give us their attention to communicate with. And once we have a communication, there's a trust, there's a friendship built. That way, when you do see a midday square in a store, for example, that has 30 plus thousand products, we stand out because you know us. You're like, I love that team. Now, the downfall of it is it takes a lot longer to grow that, right? Because you're building a foundational thing. We're not chasing a trend. We're building content that's relevant, what we believe relevant to human nature. For example, showing, what a burnout looks like and why it affects our business, or, therapy sessions or legal battles, raising money, like things we never see, the emotions. We show it. That way, you as a consumer, you do feel part of it. You want us to win. You're cheering us on, or you want us to lose. Like, it's emotional, right? And I think that in a world full of billions of pieces of content, the only thing that's going to stand apart or stand and strike through is the content that relates to the individual at a deeper level than just surface level, commoditized, functional, typical promotional sell-through marketing. So for us, we've done that since day one, and I think vulnerability has allowed us to garner millions and millions of organic views, and it's been extremely powerful, extremely worthwhile. And I think most brands don't necessarily need to do what Midday Squares does, which is show the curtain behind the scene full throttle. But I think that brands need to find their authenticity, which is super important.
So you talked about therapy and being vulnerable, and you've also talked about your therapist being your performance coach, which is kind of cool. It's a unique approach on it, and it isn't talked about much in business. How has that been important to you professionally and personally?
I think therapy is one of the best investments we've made as a business to date. And what I mean by that is we literally invest in therapy once every week. My partners and I go to this coach. We call it a coach, but it's a therapist. And the idea is to protect our partnership as family, but also our partnership in business. Meaning that, for us, we look at things like, okay, if we're going to do this business and build it to $1 billion, and we hate each other after it, what was the point? You know, most businesses don't fail because of bad products. They actually fail because conflicts between the partners, between the founders, between the board, between everything that can make a really big difference. So for us, at the end of the day, you know, I was not the biggest advocate of therapy prior to starting 6 years ago, 6.5 years ago. I was like, oh, it means that you're unhappy if you go to therapy. And I was just immature and naive at the time. And my partner said to me, if you don't do the therapy with us once a week for the perpetual, basically for the rest of my life, as long as we're doing midday squares, then we can't go forward with our partnership. And I said to them, are you going to throw it all away for this? And they're like, yeah. And for them, it was all about making sure that we're aligned. We stay in alignment all the time. We work on very powerful communication. So become the best communicators, very transparent, very vulnerable, and have very hard conversations in a safe zone and protect the partnership. So I said to them, okay, I'll do a couple of sessions. And I said, if you guys film yourselves and be open to filming yourselves and putting it on camera, then you guys commit to that for a couple months. I commit to therapy, and we'll see how it goes from there. So we both did those commitments, and it was a mutual partnership. We signed an agreement, and therapy became one of the best things that we've ever done. And storytelling has become one of the best things for our marketing that we've ever done. And the reason being is, at the end of the day, most people allow ego, you know, emotions to get in the way. And if you have someone that can professionally guide a conversation, you can avoid a lot of that unknown or the tension that can build. And I'd say, look, we become huge advocates for therapy. I don't just go with my partners every week. I actually go myself. So I learned that the therapy is not, it's like a LeBron James. He has so many coaches. Why are we as individuals, whether it's your career professional, whether you're unemployed, whether you're a student, whether you're an entrepreneur, why are we not getting coached on the mental aspect as well to improve ourselves, to make us better, to make a better communicator, to make a better individual? So for me, therapy is more of that. I am becoming a better human to the world, a better human to my business by investing in my mental health, investing in my abilities to communicate better, to understand myself better. And it's paid off in 20 folds. And yeah, if we wouldn't have done the therapy, I don't think we'd be here today as a business, to be honest.
I love that. Just that being vulnerable too. And talking about kind of that being vulnerable and how that kind of shaped you three and that connection, that family, how has being vulnerable kind of shaped the rest of the internals of the business? So like sharing all your failures, knowing that if we fail, we're going to share this, we're going to publicize this, we're going to talk about this. Has that changed the dynamic much when you look internally?
I think it's changed our whole business. I think therapy from, you know, we some of our teammates come to it as well. You know, I think what therapy really does is it allows us to stay aligned and communicate very clearly on when we have a problem and solve that problem. So meaning like, let's say you, let's say I was mad at my sister regarding a decision she made. I'm not holding it back and letting it build and not saying something. I'm sitting down in a conversation with our coach, Dr. James Gavin, and we're working through that problem until we get somewhere. So we play ping pong. I call it ping pong. We rally back and forth until we don't need to rally, and we get somewhere and agree to that. And I think that that's the beauty of therapy. I think every business should invest in this. I think every individual should invest in this. It's not medical advice, but this is what, in my opinion, how it's helped me and it's helped my partners, and how much, you know, it's prevented so many moments of complete collapse from our business and from us as individuals. And again, I say it very clearly: if we built this to $1 billion and we hated each other, this wouldn't have been worth it. What's the point? I lose some of my best friends. I lose some of my family members, and this happens all the time. By the way, all the time.
Wow, yeah, and then just preventing that, right? If you want to play this game for this long, you're gonna have to recognize the need for that human connection. And you're talking or you're walking the talk, right? You talk about human connection, you talk about how important kindness is, but you're actually living that internally, which I think is super foundational. I love that.
No, but I'm just saying, you know, like, why would you not want to protect your partnership if you know that protecting it allows you to it's give you your best chance at winning, right? So knowing that, why would you not invest in that? Because the data is there that a lot of businesses fail because of partner conflict and founder issues. And again, that's just an ego thing. That's just a non-alignment and non-communication. That's basically what it is. It's basically a lack of communication.
Yeah, and that therapy is that perfect tool, right? It clears that gap and it works amazing. I'm really impressed that you guys found that and like applied it to business too, because then people find it in their personal lives, but then they feel like it's not reflected back in their business. I love that you're making that so foundational.
I
And
love it.
You've said that your purpose is to spread energy that ignites something in people. Every day, I push to prove that you can win showing up as exactly who you are. It's a beautiful mission and something that kind of it separates your purpose from yourself. It's not like I'm trying to build $1 billion business. So I'm trying to make people feel ignited. So how has that changed over time? Has it always been this, or how have you come to this mission and this purpose?
I think at the end of the day, for us, for at least for me, sorry, my purpose, I'm still working fully on it. So it's been many, many years, 10 years of entrepreneurship that I've been trying to figure out this purpose. And I've come to the point where I realize that if I can ignite a spirit, if I can ignite a fire of inspiring someone to be more themselves, to lean into taking that risks of who they are and letting them play their game, not somebody else's game, and and how I do that is by showing that we're going to build this business to hopefully a large size by doing that, by being unapologetically myself, by following my path that I make, not the path that somebody else wants me to make. And none of us were chocolatiers or food entrepreneurs prior, and we're able to do this because we believe in ourselves. We have good execution. We're resilient, and we lean into our strengths. We lean into who we are. And I think that if I can ignite that in other people, then I've done my mission. I've done my work on this world, because there's nothing more freeing than living life the way you want to live, that's true to you. The moment you play the game that everyone's playing, so following the herd, you are part of the average. You are not you are not going to have an outlier return. You are not going to have an outlier outcome. But if you lean into who you are, which no one can be but you, then you're going to have an outlier, good or bad, fail or succeed. You're at least going to have something that's up or bottom. And either way, it's a learning. So either way, it's a win. And I always tell people, make unaverage decisions will equal unaverage outcomes. Average decisions will equal average outcomes. So knowing that, why would you not go make unaverage decisions every single day of your life? Given that a loss or a failure or a rejection or a mistake is an opportunity to learn from and get better and then make another outlier decision. And we talked about the five people, that you want to have, maybe that I want to have lunch with or whatever, dinner. They're all outliers. They make on average decisions, and not all the decisions are correct. Not most of them probably are not, but the ones that are right, they either win really big, or the ones that they made mistakes on, they learn from and do better next time. And that's a privilege to go through. That's not Failing is a privilege. As long as you're a good person, like we said, a kind person, and you're not trying to harm people, failing and mistakes and rejection is going to lead to your next greatest thing.
And this is kind of a fundamental question. It's a really hard one, of course, but how do people find that authenticity? How do they know that they're taking actions based off how they feel and not just how their environment's making them feel like they should? And how do they actually focus in on who they are, on what they want to do? Do they just need to fail a bunch, try as many things as possible, or what would be your advice to them?
So I think fundamentally the only way to find your authenticity is two things, two parts. So number one, it can only be you. No one's going to be able to tell you who you are, because you are living your life. You're the only one living your life in your shoes every day. Second part of it is to find more things, to experience more, to feel certain things that will at least guide you into that direction. I believe is just put yourself every day, or as much as you can, into zones of discomfort, meaning that zones that might be something new to you, might be something you're nervous about or scared to do, and just little baby steps, and feel it and build that muscle of going into uncomfortable situations, of going into experiences that you might not want to. And I think that over time you're going to see what you like, what you don't like, who you are, because you're going to be experiencing and you're going to be feeling something. So I'd say again, put yourself in discomfort to find what's comforting to you, right? And that's what I did, and I'm still doing that all the time. And I get nervous all the time. I get the jitters. I get scared, but I know that on the other side of that is always some sort of outlier, right? So good or bad, fail or succeed, it's one of those. So I do it, and it becomes a muscle, like your biceps. You lift weights every week to, do curls or whatever you want to call it. Eventually you go from 5 pounds a week to 20 pounds to 30 pounds, and you're growing. It's compounding. So the same thing goes for this, is put yourself in discomfort to find your authenticity.
I love that. It's like that discomfort, it breeds authenticity. Like you
Yep.
can't be inauthentic if you're in that zone of discomfort. I love that so much. Okay, and talking about your story and how it's changed over time, from being told you wouldn't graduate high school to shifting and getting your bachelor in financial economics from Western, and all realizing that none of it mattered to you. So I'm a first year business student at UBC Sauder. If you were to create a business program for young leaders or even entrepreneurs today, what would it look like? What would you prioritize?
Yeah. So it's important to note that I'm an advocate for school. I didn't do well and I struggled, and I think the testing system could use some improvements and stuff like that. And I think if I were to create a business program, I think that I would create a sub program. So I think a lot of the management programs or the finance programs or the medical programs they're great. Some of the stuff that schools do, the research, the people that that graduate are brilliant. Now, what I would just encourage to have a little bit more of is, instead of just an entrepreneur class or an entrepreneur club, I would suggest creating an entire program dedicated to entrepreneurship. And what I mean by that is, I would hope that we can make a program which shows people what the path of entrepreneurship actually looks like. So the painful part of it, the sacrifices that are made, show case studies of how to build businesses, not just, hey, let's write a business plan. No, let's actually go through the motions. Let's bring in a lot of guest lecturers that are building businesses so that people could feel it, see it. I think the testing methods is less on memorizing certain things, but more on what can we experience? How can we put ourselves in the world? Because look, entrepreneurship is not just finance, it's not just sales, it's not just marketing, it's everything all combined. So I think that each school should have a dedicated facility that every program can go experience. So they can come and experience in the building, they could try things, they could utilize the serendipity of meeting other people. But I think there should be a dedicated program as well to people that really know what they want to be and they want to be an entrepreneur, and actually give them the tools and abilities to do that. I think that schools are getting better. I'm seeing a lot more. Western just invested a tremendous amount into entrepreneurship and is creating this program slowly. Super exciting to see this, because when I was at school, it wasn't that entrepreneurship was a bad word. It was more that it was like, oh yeah, like we have a committee, or like an event thing that we can go to, but there wasn't enough thought process or guidance that has been put into every other program: engineering, finance, medicine, which law, like those are very important, don't get me wrong. But why can't we have one for entrepreneurship? I think that that's what I would do. It was build those programs, and then also let all the other programs come to use this kind of stuff or experience. Because when you put these people together from engineering, finance, marketing, law, they could build some of the brightest things in the world. Like that serendipity of all being in one campus is fascinating.
So like you're recognizing the gap of like we're not actually having as many real world experiences as we can. So just have it be authentic as possible. And like it all
Yep.
comes back to authenticity and living that true life. I love that so much. That's so cool. Okay, and you talked before about burnout. Where does your drive come from, and what do you do when you lose it? When you experience that burnout?
I think burnout is a huge topic that needs to be discussed more. And I had a burnout almost 2 years ago, I think it was, or maybe 2 years ago, and it was one of the craziest experiences of my life. I lost control of everything. Like I was so unhappy. I was lethargic. I was exhausted. I couldn't get out of bed. I was actually physically injured because I fell during playing hockey, but my body just felt like there was no purpose. Like I was just like, what am I doing? And the business was doing well at the time. It was just I lost track of who I was, and I was chasing something that wasn't me, in the sense that I was chasing awards and credentials and all these things that again were surface level, but I if I didn't get it, I would feel bad, and it just kept building, and I worked 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day nonstop, and there was signs all the time that like basically said like, you're tired, slow down, take a break, reflect, recharge. And I just ignored it until my body collapsed. And not only did I feel physically hurt, I had a mental health spiral where I started to have these OCDs that took over my life, and health anxiety, and I couldn't function basically. So I did a ton of therapy. I actually did hypnosis, which was great. This is not medical advice for anybody, but it worked for me. And what I learned is that you got to just listen to your body. Your body knows when it's feeling certain things, and you got to connect your mind body tremendously. And when you do that, you become very powerful. You become very strong, because there's nothing worse than a tired, exhausted, barely functioning person that's hustling like a crazy person. So what I learned is I'd rather be recharged, fired up, excited, alive, because I can accomplish and be more productive than I've ever been before. And now what I do is, when I have these signs of burnout coming, so lethargia, lack of motivation, not feeling alive, I know that there's something wrong. So I stop, I reflect, I look at everything, I ask myself what's going on, and I do what I need to do to get back. But I think that when you're going through these burnouts, you got to be careful because it could affect you for one day. It could affect you for an hour. It could affect you for a week. It could affect you for 10 years. There's chemical reactions that happen, right, in your brain. So for me, what I would say to people is listen to your body. When you're overworking or you feel really exhausted, you feel less purposeful, you feel less excited, less motivated, less functional. Take a second, slow down. You're not unstoppable, by the way. You and I are not unstoppable. We're human. And I'm a huge believer in work really hard, work your butt off, and if you execute, you have perseverance, you have resilience, I believe you can get somewhere in life. You could give yourself a chance at winning. But I think that there's a caution to just doing it while not destroying your health. And again, I'm just a huge proponent now of making sure that I stay on track. And one of the things is just making sure that you always ask yourself, is this part of my purpose? Is it not? Am I really doing this because I want to, or am I doing it to prove something, or am I doing it to chase something? Because the moment you keep doing that and you compound that chasing or trying to prove, it eventually collapses your system, because you're so off track of your life, right? So just be careful, and don't be embarrassed to talk about burnout either. This is like a common thing, by the way, with a lot of my entrepreneur friends and a lot of people that are in the career world that are doing amazing things.
And the more we talk about it, the more we'll have better research and understanding and compassion for each other when that does happen. I love that. And it seems like it all circles back to authenticity, right? You're saying,
Yep.
when I experienced that burnout, I felt like I wasn't being passionate. I wasn't driving. I was chasing awards. I love how you have such a clear purpose and a clear vision. That's so powerful.
And it's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong journey. So I still am doing tons of work, right?
Yeah.
So, but what I could tell you is I'm way better prepared and I don't regret going through the burnout in the sense that I learned so much from it. Again, unaverage decisions led to an unaverage outcome. It was a bad outcome, but I had the privilege to go through that and learn about myself, my body, and just understanding tips and tools to get through these moments. Because if you want to play the game for a very long time, you want to play the game similar to like Michael Jordan or LeBron plays the game, they've been in it for a long time. Well, Michael was and LeBron is, and you don't think that they make sure that they're on track and that they're focused and that they're getting back. If they're off, what's going on? What's psychological? What's not? What's physical? They're always coming back. They're bringing themselves back, and that's when they are the goats. So same thing goes for everybody else in this world. Just because you're not an athlete doesn't mean that you can't bring yourself back and look and still work hard and still achieve massive things.
And when we look at, I watched the Last Dance documentary, and when we look at Michael Jordan, even they were saying the one most powerful thing about him was he was always present. He was always authentic, and he was always driving forward. And I think that really punches home what you're saying. I love that so much.
Well, I
If you,
appreciate it.
yeah, if you were to talk to your 24-year-old self who just got rejected by all these investment banks in Canada, and you're facing that pivotal moment in your life, what advice would you give them as you choose this new way of life, this entrepreneurial, this pursuit of excellence, and in these failures that are to come? What advice would you give yourself?
Greatness takes time. When I started this business, and I sometimes get caught in a bit now, is I want things quick, instant gratification. And I used to think that there is such thing as overnight success where you could build something, scale it, and then sell it for $600 million in 2, 3 years. And that does happen occasionally, by the way. But that's not reality of most cases of most great cases, by the way. And so what I do at that time was change my perspective and learn to enjoy. I think they say trust the process, but I would say learn to enjoy, the hardships, learn to enjoy the adversity, learn to enjoy the pain that you're going to have along the journey because it's a choice to go through. I think that's important when you start a business. It's a choice, right? This is not You're not being forced to do it, and instead of waiting for the outcome or the big sale or this or the big acquisition or the IPO or whatever you want to talk about, focus on focus on feeling alive throughout the process. Because once it's done, by the way, once you have that outcome, a lot of these people will look back and say, I wish I was back in it, because there is this sense of enjoyment through the pain and this sense of, this is cool. Like, this is fun. You're problem solving. You're putting out fires. Yes, it's stressful. And if you can manage that stress, you're the winner. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I wouldn't have midday scores another way. Even though it's been extremely painful. I've had 36 nights where I've cried myself to sleep. I don't regret any of those, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that that's what I would tell myself. It's all good, Jake. It's going to take time. It's going to take time.
And like in that pursuit of excellence and that struggle, we find purpose. We find purpose in those challenges. Without those challenges, we wouldn't have that that sense of guiding purpose. I love that so much. Okay, and
100%, my man.
we'll get to these end of the questions because I know you got to go
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I have a
What
board call.
is the most significant thing that you have changed your mind about? What forced that change?
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah. What is the most significant thing that you have changed your mind about?
Definitely therapy was the big one. Again, when I started Midday Squares, I was avoiding therapy. I was coming off a breakup, heartbreak in my life, and a closing of a business. So I was double hit, and I was just like trying to be tough. I was like, I'm tough, and I thought therapy meant that, again, that it means you're lesser of, and this is the dumbest way of thinking, is most immature, naive. Now I am a huge proponent of that. That has become one of the best investments I've made in my life. So that was definitely a 180.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And what are some books, some videos, or some frameworks that you would recommend to leaders today who are trying to grow personally and professionally?
I would say a great book that I read this year that I found absolutely fantastic. Sorry, two books. So number one is How to Live an Extraordinary Life by Anthony Pompliano. I think he's a crypto entrepreneur, but he basically wrote letters to his kids as he was building. They're all alive. He's a young guy. But I think it was 65 letters, and it's just things he's experienced and journaled, and you read it and it's just like, that's how you live a good life. That's how you actually win fulfillment, you win purpose, you win by being you. And it was a great book and fired me up. I read it twice. The second book that I used, and I'm currently reading at the moment, I'm not done it, I'm about 70% done, is Atomic Habits, and it's just about changing habits. I think it's a very popular book, but it's focusing on how you can change your environment and things like that, which is critical, by the way, to building what you want to build in life. And then other things is surround yourself with people that make you feel alive. And I know we discussed this earlier, but friends, family, colleagues, acquaintances, fellow classmates, if they don't make you feel alive, it's time to cut them. And I don't want to sound harsh. They can come back in your life and you can come back in theirs, hopefully. But if you're not being elevated, if you're not feeling fired up or learning from or engaging, it almost becomes a time that the energy gets sucked, right? And I've had people in my life that, I used to be friends with, that would always ask and pull down instead of uplifting me. And I was just like, why am I dedicating time to that? Why am I dedicating precious time where I could help someone else or I could elevate? I should feel elevated, because if you're not feeling winning, if you're not feeling alive and winning in your life, you're in trouble. So I think that's another big thing, is surround yourself with people that want you to win, that also want to be honest with you, and criticize you if necessary, in a constructive way. And then last but not least is, I always say, sleep, move, and eat well. They're basics, and it will change your life if you actually commit to all three of those. Eat whole foods. Doesn't mean you can't have candy and some stuff occasionally. Sleep. I used to sleep 3 to 4 hours as we were building this business per night for many years. I changed that now to 6 to 7.5 now. I feel a lot better. And then last but not least is move. I actually don't sit all day. I used to sit all day. Move, dance, shake, whatever you can to just get your energy going. It creates dopamine. It creates real dopamine. Use that, and I promise you'll win big.
I love that. And talking about that environment and how we can shape each other, like recognizing the need to be ruthless, quote unquote, when those times happen, but recognizing it and doing it out of kindness, not out of like anger or out of you
No.
should be doing this for me, but doing like, hey, I'm recognizing this unalignment. Let's move forward. Let's be honest. Let's be kind to
and
each other.
and not revenge and all these things, like, you, by the way, I always say, like, people come back, but whether it's you that needs to change, like myself, or it's the others, it's just like life's too short to have negativity in your life and pessimism. I think optimism and hope is a critical thing, as long as it's not on fairy tale dust or anything like that. It's like mostly just like real. It will benefit you so much. It will pay a return that is unlimited. It's infinite.
Yeah. And there's this quote too that the pessimists get to be right, but the optimists get to be happy, right? Where it's
You
like the
nailed
idea
it.
they get to rule the world. They get to because you have to be an optimist to try something crazy to be that
Uh,
outlier.
100%.
Okay. As we end here today, I'm going to challenge you. If you could leave our listener with one tangible thing they want to remember or you want them to remember as they move forward from this podcast, what would that catchphrase, that practice, that motivational thing be? Anything that you want.
Simply share your story authentically every day, in life, on social media. I promise you it will give you an advantage, an unfair advantage over most of the world because most people don't share their story. They're playing someone else's story.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Leadership Lessons. If you've learned anything new from this episode at all, I'd really appreciate a 5-star review and follow this podcast on your preferred platform, as I'm trying to reach as many new leaders of tomorrow as possible. You can see short form content and what we're doing on Instagram and LinkedIn, as well as long form videos of these episodes on YouTube. On each of those, I have my email available, so feel free to shoot me a message. I'd love to connect. Thanks for listening.